So we've had lots of users ask how they can set up a document like this, what kind of data they need and that. So we're actually going to be providing the content you're seeing here as a free download, as a template for people to follow. So you can see how to author the buildings, how to author these different layers and get great performance with the data. Okay, so let's do some GeoDesign. So let's say that the City of Philadelphia wants to do a safety fence program where they're going to digitize in some dangerous zones. So if we come back here to this where this railroad is, we can see that there's some steep slopes, there's the railway track, and then there's some wooded areas here. These are areas that maybe we want to protect, especially because it's so close to this playing field. So just like you saw before, we just start editing. I've got multiple data sources. It's warning me that I'm editing in WGS84, so there's a GIS component there that we care about, that kind of stuff. And I get my template. I've got a fairly simple template. I'm going to can digitize in steep slopes, areas where vehicles will be traveling through, and wooded areas. And these are the areas that I want to make sure that we can protect using fencing. I'm just going to sketch in these. And we'll do some vehicle. So you might notice that there's this thing called snapping, which is a GIS term to make sure that we get some good quality. Make sure these features match up to each other. Do the same again with this wooded area, snapping. And now I've got those polygon features. Now, to run a model against this, what I would need is some locations where I would want to make sure that people who are here can't get into these danger areas. So I'm just putting them in for later use. And now I can actually put in the things I'm trying to design, which is the fences. So I'll put in a 6-foot high wood fence along there, and maybe the chain link 4-foot fence along there. And we'll stop editing and we'll save our edits. And because Globe uses display caches, I'm just going to resynchronize my caches. And we can look at the results of what we just digitized in. You can see that these are our zones that we care about. And if I turn the zones off, you can see that we've got our fences in place. And now we could run geoprocessing tools to analyze this. I'm just going to quickly switch to another quick scenario inside a city. I've just turned on a layer here for the vacant parcels. So a really common scenario is a proposed building, and you want to analyze the impact it's going to have on the city. I'm just going to do a couple of quick analysis of those. So we'll go to the location of that building, and I'm going to start editing. And I have just one template defined for this document, and it's for the buildings. And I'm getting my tool, and with a single click, I'm going to import a 3D model. In this case, it's going to be a SketchUp file that was sent in as a proposal for a new building to go on this lot. So I can select that SketchUp file, and it's going to be brought into the GIS. Now, in GIS, we care about features for the geometry, but also for attributes. So I'm going to put in some things, put in a contact name, the date it was submitted, which is today, and an iteration number. This is the first model we've got, or a proposal from Bob for this. And I can continue to make edits to that feature. Let's say I want to rotate it to face the correct direction. And I can move it to its correct location on the lot. And if we turn the other buildings on, now we can start to get a feel for how this new building is going to appear inside our landscape. Now that I've done all this work, of course, the contractors had just contacted me and said that he would really like to replace that model with an update. So I'm going to replace that model. I'm just going to give this a second to calm down because it's thinking about something. We'll replace that model with an update. So they've enhanced the model. The design's changed. They've got a different type of geometry. They've put textures on the side of it. They've done all of that themselves in whatever format they like, and they've delivered it back to us as a SketchUp model. Okay, now, next we want to analyze the effect that this might have on our city. So I'm going to close this. Actually, one key point is those attributes that I entered before haven't changed. So I've been, even though I've switched out the geometry, I still have the GIS feature, and the geometry is just one part of that GIS feature. So unselect it. And we'll start thinking about some impact it might have. So nearby is Logan Circle. We saw that earlier. And over here we have these viewpoints. And these are the apartments that currently have a view of Logan Circle and might be impacted by this. So how do we know whether they are or not? We run some analysis. So I've created a geoprocessing model to do this. I'll just quickly bring it up. It only has a couple of tools in it. And there's a couple of new tools available at 9.4 to do 3D vector analysis. Very simple model. We're just going to construct some sight lines and then find out which ones of those are intersected by that new building. So we'll run the tool. And I've set it up so there's only one parameter. And that's the output. And it's going to go create lines between this viewpoint here and these locations, and it's going to identify all of the lines that have intersect through this building and therefore have their view blocked. So there's the result. Let me just change the symbology so it's a bit easier to see. So all the people who live here are going to have no view after this building is built. So we mentioned that to the developer, saying that they're blocking some views, and do they have any other designs in mind? And they said, well, we've got one more. We'll send it to you. We're going to reduce the height of the building a little bit. We're going to bring it down 3 stories. And you can see that that's going to have absolutely no effect. So the idea is that you can go through iterations of this, and that's what GeoDesign is all about, right? Is you try things out, and then you analyze each state. We don't need to rerun it because we can see it's not going to affect it.
But because this is a GIS, we actually know who the apartment owners are. We can contact them, right?
That's a very good point. That's a good reminder. This GIS, the attributes here can link us to who owns these apartments, and we can advise them that this construction is going to go in before it even happens. So that's one example of analysis that we might be interested in. Another one is this idea of a skyline. And some cities actually have protected skylines, and for other cities it might be just a skyline they want to protect. So here we are back at the Rocky Balboa Steps, and we can see the skyline of Philadelphia from here, and we can see that this proposed building won't change that skyline. So if that's part of our approval process, we know that we're okay from here. And if I just quickly show you what a skyline is, you can see it's not as simple as you might think. It runs over a building, runs off into the distance, comes back into the foreground, and runs over the next building. The advantage of this new tool at 9.4 is you can identify which buildings participate inside your skyline, and you can flag them. So, for example, this building here, you can see how the skyline, which part of the building is in the skyline. And you could also say that if this building wants to put anything on top of it, a new tower, then there would be an additional processing or an additional approval step required for them to get approval from us.